Hello again, everyone. I'm Stu Ellis. In the past few years, ag education has taken a major turn and is now recognized for its academic value, and credits in VOAG class are now being counted toward high school graduation and acceptance into higher education. But now, ag education is now stretching beyond high school. It's being found more frequently in middle schools and even in grade schools, where youngsters are excited to learn about their food and where it comes from. And that's our topic for today. We're going to begin with the big picture, and that's from Kim Kidwell, Vice Chancellor from the University of Illinois.
So the short story is they got pretty excited about Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign, and they started to talk about, well, we're chefs, we can probably contribute to this story in a meaningful way, trying to teach kids about nutrition and healthy eating and food and things like that. So they established this nonprofit called Pilot Light, and they developed a curriculum around food and took an approach to train teachers how to use that curriculum in the classroom to get kids excited about different subjects using food as the example. Like you can teach chemistry using food as an example, math using food as an example, history is using food as examples. And what happened was kind of a weird elevation of interest from students in the content of the course, and teachers feeding off that enthusiasm from their students to get excited about what they do. They also do other types of programming around snacks in lunchrooms. They have a Snack Explorers program that teaches kids how to make healthy choices around snacks and things like that. But it was kind of an interesting aha for me, thinking about we wait so long to introduce young people to careers in food, agriculture, nutrition. Can we do it earlier, and can teachers help us tell that story? So when I told Robert Jones, our chancellor, about this, he said, "Oh, you're going after the teachers this time, huh?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Good idea, right?" So I talked to the folks at Pilot Light, and we got excited about potentially developing a coalition of folks that could help us do this. So Lieutenant Governor Stratton's been involved, and ISBE's involved, and we've got Chicago High School for Ag Sciences involved. And then I went to my buddies down in East St. Louis and said, hey, can we do a cohort down here, because we do the Jackie Joyner Kersey Food Ag Nutrition Innovation Center project down there. I came to Zach Shield here because he's done a phenomenal job of introducing agriculture into the Decatur context. And then Pilot Light was very well established in Chicago already, so they work their networks there. And so we have three different entities funding these projects. So East St. Louis is funded by a company, Decatur is funded by a private donor, and then a nonprofit is funding the Chicago cohort. So we brought them together after a year being in the program today to kind of debrief what happened, make some adjustments for where we go in this next year, and get some feedback about what the impact of the approach in their classrooms has been.
When this is all done, are we going to integrate schools across the state of Illinois with food being a common denominator in their educational classes?
I hope so. That would be the goal, right, for this to go viral across the state of Illinois and maybe even across the country. So we have Amy Lehman from University of Illinois doing the assessment work, because we have to prove the concept is effective. And so, there's always the, oh, this was great and I love it. Then there's demonstrating that people are making different decisions around food and nutrition and well-being in a positive way. And I think the teachers, we've seen some unbelievable impacts. One of my favorite stories, we've done this embryology piece where, they're hatching chickens in the classroom. How much love these kids have for these chickens kind of phenomenal, which has been happening for decades. Like, we've used this example a lot, but these are kids in inner city Chicago, right? These are kids in East St. Louis that are doing these kinds of things. These are kids in Decatur doing these kinds of things that are connecting the ecosystem around food to animals to well-being. It's really powerful.
And that can go a long way in their life. And at that point, some of them are going to say, well, gee, I could go raise chickens for a profession. Yeah. Or they're going to train their kids what I learned in school about chickens in 5th grade.
Yeah, exactly. I think linking any content to agriculture and food, it's easier than you think, right? It's kind of shocking how easy, especially around history and sociology, when you think about even the historical presence of food in a family, like your favorite dishes that your mom made that you've passed on for generations, those kinds of things. There's a lineage in food that really does connect us all, and that's what Lieutenant Governor Stratton says a lot, food connects us all. Well, we're trying to create a vehicle that's well received and familiar with people to get people excited about education. So there's the content that they're learning in the classroom, and then there's the linkage of that content to career pathways, to get young people excited about thinking about careers in food, agricultural aligned disciplines when they're in that K through 8 space. So this is kind of a program that's intended to be a feeder into 4-H and FFA, instead of waiting until they get in high school, where frankly most of them have really kind of honed into what they want to do anyway. It happens awfully early, to create a pathway to expand their opportunities so they're more like, oh, I know what 4-H is, I know what FFA is, I know what biotechnology is, I know what animal science is, I know what nutrition is. So there's some familiarity, like, oh, this is what this is how it impacts my life, and this is something I want to contribute to as a career pathway. So we're trying to connect those dots to get more interest across earlier grade span with kids in food, agriculture, and nutrition.
Now, in your former position as Dean of the College of ACES, does any of this connect back to ACES now, or will there be some linkage with the folks in ACES and the students that they teach to integrate into all of this?
Absolutely. You know, there are no accidents, right? We're connecting the dots on purpose here. So Extension and 4-H are involved in this project. So we've had a desire to connect what's happening in school with after-school programming. 4-H does that really well. So they've been involved in East St. Louis and trying to bring those pieces together and weave them together. The assessment person is also a faculty member in ALEC in ACES, very intentional. You know, she's in the program where they teach ag ed, right? So she knows what that feeder system looks like, and I think that assessment piece coming from her is validating in a lot of ways. All the ag teachers in the state actually know her, and she was in Extension before she went into ACES. So the team is set up very intentionally, and we're excited about that because I think it validates an approach where, you know, for many, many years, like I've been working in this field for 30 years, I don't know if we've moved the dial very much on getting new people into agriculture. Like it's been slow but steady. How do we expand that in a meaningful way? This is one way to do it. And what we're seeing, you know, when you talk to these teachers, very few of whom have had any exposure to agriculture, and you talk to them about what they're doing and how they're doing it, they're learning so much too, and they're the nurturers of the change agents, right? So the consistency with which they'll deliver that curriculum in their classrooms year after year after year, creating a cohort effect in their school so there's more than one person that's actually doing that and they're connecting those dots for kids, it's the way you change the mindset of a generation, and that's what we really hope to do.
What have I not asked that's important to you for this conversation and what you see as the future in the program?
Well, I'll tell you, I think how do you get something like this to go viral, right? Because we talk about that a lot. So we're talking about, you know, approaching state legislature, we're talking about writing grants, we're talking about different ways to get people to understand that you can train a teacher in any school district, in any county, in any part of the state of Illinois, and have this approach used in your classrooms. It can be done in inner city Chicago, it can be done in rural Illinois, it can be done in any state, it can be done in any country, right? So the approach of helping teachers be more effective in the classroom was something that's relevant to all of us, that kids can go home and talk to their parents about, where people can see the connection between education and the power of that understanding to improving life. The potential for that to go viral is real. Like this is something that any senator in the state of Illinois could sit with me and say, I want this in my district. And we can say, this is what it's going to take to make it happen.
Well, now that you've heard the plans, let's start building an ag education collaborative right after this. Now, the first question that might be asked about all of this is who is funding this rather expansive initiative? Well, that's a surprising and rather intriguing story. A Chicago-based group known as Pilot Light is being led by Alex DeSorbo, and she says it all began with several famous chefs at big Chicago restaurants.
Our chef founders, their names are chefs Paul Kahn, Jason Hamill, Matthias Mergis, and Justin Large. They were inspired by First Lady Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign. And they went to a summit on the White House lawn during the Obama administration and came back to Chicago and wanted to bring the power of food into classrooms and into schools. And they sat down with Chicago public school teachers and a Chicago public school principal and had said, you know, what can we do? What makes sense? And the response was, you know, partnering with teachers to integrate food into learning. But I think being founded by chefs, when I first started, and I've been with the organization now for 12 years, they always said to me, you know, we're connecting kids to food. Through food, we're connecting them to each other. Food is a shared language. And I think that their love of food and their interest in really, again, connecting kids to food and everything that you should know about food, to care about it and to care about the choices that you're making and to want to make change for your food system and for your community, it's pretty robust. So one of the first things that we did at Pilot Light was define the term food education, because we realized as we were going into schools and we were talking to principals and we were talking to teachers and students, we kept saying, you know, we teach about food, we teach food education, and being founded by chefs, that, you know, there was a common response of, oh, well, it's culinary education, or some thought it was nutrition education or agricultural education. We kept saying, you know, yes, and. So in 2018, we knew that defining food education was something that we couldn't do alone, so we convened about 30 experts in fields of child development, education, food, agriculture. We all came together. They were from across the nation. We came together in Chicago, and we said to this team, what are the knowledge and skills that students need from pre-K through 12th grade to have informed relationships with food? And we ultimately came up with 7 standards. We call them our food education standards. And I actually have them in my hand right here. I don't know if your camera can pick them up. But we are so proud of them. They are our North Star at Pilot Light. They outline what food education is and those knowledge and skills that students need to have those informed relationships with food. The first standard is food connects us to each other. And like I said, being founded by chefs, it's so apt that that would be our first standard, because learning about food and its connection to yourself and your history and your identity and your culture, that is foundational. And then everything builds from there around learning where your food comes from and the impacts of your choices and what you can do, and how you can make different decisions, and how you can advocate. And that's all in our food education standards. We call them standards because we wrote them for teachers, and we partnered with teachers to write them, so they're by teachers. So they effectively serve as a blueprint for implementation for teachers. So teachers can pick them up in their classrooms, and they can teach through food in subjects like science and social studies, and also be teaching about food. And they can make it make sense for their students. Again, I said we're a national organization, coast to coast, all different communities. Students have different relationships with food and different experiences with food. And through these standards, teachers can bring those lessons to life in a way that connects to their students' experiences, no matter their grade level or where they live.
Now, with a group like yours, there's probably a lot of philanthropy that comes in and expenses being covered going out. Where does it come from, and how is it distributed?
Sure. We've got a mix of funding, and we've done that purposefully. One of our most significant sources of funding is our gala. So every year we have a gala called the Feed Your Mind Gala. It's in Chicago, and it's hosted by our chef founders. And this year's is going to be a lot of fun. We're actually honoring Chef Rick Bayless as our inaugural chef honoree. Our host is Peter Sagal from Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me on WBEZ and NPR. And our chefs have invited chefs from across across Chicago, and they are serving 2 tables of 10 tableside, a multi-course meal. So essentially, in this giant room, there's lots of little restaurants set up and incredibly talented chefs serving these incredible meals. And all of these folks are just so generous and so committed to our mission at Pilot Light, to our mission of food education, but also committed to their community and to giving back. And we're super grateful to them and also to the people who come and engage in this experience and make very generous contributions that evening.
And then those funds can go out to teachers and help them get whatever they need for classroom experiments and demonstrations and those types of things, I assume.
That's right. At Pilot Light, we invest in teachers in doing this work, and we do that because an investment in teachers it's a sustainable investment. We build teacher capacity. We provide them with professional development, with curriculum, with standards, with materials and supplies so that they can build Pilot Light, they can build food education into their curriculum that year, but also subsequent years. So it's a lasting impact. Further, the teachers that we partner with and the teachers that we invest in, they bring other teachers to our work. They share about the impact of this program and the ways in which it's not only engaged their students in learning, because we so often hear from our teachers that their students, their eyes light up and they're excited and they're hungry to learn math and they're hungry to learn science because they're learning through food and everybody loves food. But at the same time, they're learning about food and our teachers, they really care about their students' well-being.
All right, you've had a chance to look at the menu. Now we've set the table, and we'll soon dig in. Don't go away. Dinner will be served right after this. Well, now that we have prepared this meal, let's find out what's on the plate. Overseeing the initiative in the Decatur Public Schools is Zach Shields. He's director of Public Schools Foundation, whose relationships with individuals and businesses has really fostered hundreds of city youth through ag education programs.
I don't think there's an end game. I think it's just a continue to grow and grow and grow game. I think we've got a great faculty in place. Certainly the high school program, as you know, we've started in 2018 and now we're moving into year 8. And continue to grow and continue to add teachers. We're now this year, I know you're aware, we're starting a middle school program. And I think as we start to add in some of our younger students, this program, Feeding Futures, is really focused on 3rd, 4th, 5th graders. And we've got some new partners coming in to work with the earlier grade levels. I think starting to engage students all across the age spectrum is really important. And I think that's how you continue to grow and be inventive. And, always for us, it should be student driven, and we want to hear their voice, and we want them to tell us what they're interested in and what kind of opportunities they would like to have, and then we try and provide those.
Now, you say all across the spectrum is important. What is that important for somebody who's looking at it and not aware of what you have done here? Why is it important?
Well, I think particularly with our population of kids, many of them are from homes with challenging circumstances. A lot of our kids growing up in poverty. Maybe food scarcity is an issue in their house, or certainly not having healthy options to eat. And that's where a program like Feeding Futures can be really beneficial to families top to bottom. And you're talking about an impact you can have on generations that are living in one household. And then also for us, the hands-on piece is really important. And as we extend into other elementary schools, we like to build gardens that the kids and families can plant and maintain and take home produce. That's always been something that's a neat aspect of our high school program out at the Living Science Farm.
And that high school program has really generated a phenomenal statistic in the number of students that are graduating and compared to the students who are not in this program?
Yeah, I mean, that to me is really interesting. We've always known that career tech ed, CTE students graduate at a higher rate, but the number that we were just given in Decatur Public Schools is that if students have taken at least one ag or CTE course, they graduated at a 98% clip, that's astounding. I mean, if we could replicate that with everybody, we sure would.
Why is it?
You know, I really think that our teachers, particularly in Decatur Public Schools, are really engaged. I think agriculture education by nature creates a space where kids can feel like they have some ownership and they feel an affiliation. We always talk about attitude, aptitude, attendance. Those are the three things that really help kids feel successful. And if they don't feel affiliated in some way to school, why would you want to show up? If you're not good at sports or music or art, and you don't have a thing, why would you feel like you want to be at school? A lot of our kids even struggle with traditional academic work, but they do really well when we get them into a hands-on situation like we do in the mechanic shop or like we do in the greenhouse. And it helps ground some kids and creates a sense of community. And I think those things are so important.
Now, you've got how many students at MacArthur and Eisenhower, and you're starting in the middle school? What's the student population of this program?
So right now, coming into this year, we were sitting at 299 unique students. 120 of those are freshmen. The remainder are older students who come out here to the Ag Center for half a day, and they'll take 3 classes each. So our actual unduplicated enrollment of students this year is 299. If you extrapolate it out and you look at the fact that they're taking 3 classes, the effective enrollment is actually, I think, 657. So we're really reaching, it's a high dosage of ag courses that our kids are getting. If we retain those freshmen, we're going to just continue to grow and grow year over year again.
Now, middle school, starting up a new program.
Yeah, and so that'll be 6th, 7th, and 8th. That'll be Ms. Jackson. Delia has been in our agriculture program for 5 years. Really has led the meat science part of it and a lot of our entrepreneurial ventures with the beef and the pork, and really brings a wide range of expertise to our program. And so we're hoping to replicate down a few grade levels and really work in some of those activities with the young kids so they come in and they're equipped to hit the ground running when they get to high school.
So they come out here, you've been able to show them what is happening at the FFA Center, and then that gives them a little incentive to want to go into that class when they get into middle school.
Yeah, and I think it's our kids see it as a privilege to come out here and be at the center, and it's kind of its own small, more tightly knit community than when you're in a high school with 1,000 kids in it. And I do think as we get out, one of our goals this year is to get out and visit places like Chicago High School for Ag Sciences and start to take some of our younger kids up there, not just our high school students. Academy for Global Citizenship in Chicago was founded by an Eisenhower graduate, and they've got a net zero carbon campus, and they grow the food that they eat at their lunches there. It's a charter school, really neat model. And I want our kids to be exposed to those sorts of opportunities and to see what we can do here. And we always figure if we see something out in the wider world that we like, we can replicate it. We don't have any kind of restrictions on what we can do. We can be very creative because we're privately funded. And so that, I think, is really helpful. And, we have great partners in Decatur. I have never asked anyone for help that has said no. And that goes from our building administrators and our buildings and grounds guys all the way through city government. We're always making new friends all the time who just have a particular area of interest, and just excited to see where it goes. But no end game. There is no end game.
While this program is just in the planning stages and has been implemented for just a year now, Dr. Amy Lehman of the University of Illinois is going to be evaluating it.
What we call a summative evaluation. So are they meeting the goals that they set for their project? And can they say that the outcomes that the students and teachers are saying they're achieving are based on this program or based on something else in the environment? When we talk about evaluation, we talk about changes in attitude, changes in knowledge and skills, and changes in action. So the first thing we look at is attitude changes. So before you can learn something, you have to want to learn it, right? So are we encouraging positive attitudes towards food, towards healthy food, towards thinking about food in other ways than just, I'm going to eat this because it tastes good? So one, we're looking at changing of attitudes. And for teachers, changing in attitudes about incorporating food education as well as agricultural concepts into their curriculum. Are they willing to adapt their math lessons or their science lessons to include these new concepts? Because it's added work. It's not just checking the box on things that they've done other years. So then after you've got the attitude change, then what exactly are they learning? So looking at the assessments that the students are taking in class, are they showing through what they're writing, through what they're drawing, what they're saying, that they actually know what the food education standards are, and do they know how to apply it? So, which is the action step 2. So you learn about food education standards, you learn about agriculture, and then are you willing to make changes to your everyday life? And changes, so first of all, that's about, are you telling other people about what you're learning? So are you sharing it with your family? Are you sharing it with your friends? And then are you making changes? Are you eating healthier food? Are you more likely to want a career in the agricultural industry because of what you are doing?
Now, you've done 1 year's evaluation. What happened in that first year? Did everybody make an A?
No, not everybody made an A, and I would say it's challenged. So this is a lot of things that they are throwing together. It's a very complicated system. So essentially what we found is that there are gaps in the knowledge and activities provided versus what the outcomes are that we are looking for. So in year 2, we're actually giving the teachers more ownership of what they are teaching. So now that they learn the food education standards, what can they do to make the materials more applicable to teach things the way that they are comfortable teaching it? And the other cool thing I think about this project is that they recognize that teachers usually don't take curriculum off the shelf and just teach it the way it's written. They adapt it to their students. And those of us who teach teaching, if you will, we like that, because you should not take something off the shelf and assume that all students are going to react the same way to it. So we want teachers to adapt to their own students. So part of the work in the second year is collecting that information. How did teachers adapt the lessons, and how can we collect that information to share it with other teachers to show this is the main lesson. These are the things that are important that you need to do, and these are the things that you need to adapt because your students may be different.
Thorough planning, energetic teachers, curious students, that's the formula for tomorrow's ag education. Thanks for watching. I'm Stu Ellis.